Welcome to Rise Up with Rise Growth Partners, the podcast created to inspire wealth advisors and elevate firms, one transformative idea at a time. Joe Duran and the Rise team share hard-won lessons from building top wealth management firms, showing you what it takes to create a lighthouse brand that inspires clients, attracts talent, and fuels growth. Together, we'll look at where the industry is headed so you can stay ahead of the curve. We're here to be the coach we wish we had along our journey. Let's dive in.
Hi, Joe. Welcome back.
Thanks, Jennifer. It's great to be here.
Hard to believe we're in December. It's getting chilly here on the East Coast. Better weather
even
near
in
you.
California.
So I find this time of year, we spend some time reflecting back on the previous year, but often we're looking ahead to the next year. So you wrote an article recently looking ahead at the second half of the next decade.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, right? Like here we are into this almost the second half. And I always I've always believed in looking out in multi-year windows. I've always looked out at 3 to 5 year windows. And I think it's useful when you're looking at your New Year's resolutions and what you want to do this year to put them in context of a broader period of time, because it actually improves the way you make choices. And you don't look for results to happen immediately. So I do think we're entering a very interesting phase, and our industry tends to work in 5-year increments. And so I think the next 5 years will look very different. As I wrote in the article, large part because of what's happening with AI, that I think is the biggest revolution we've seen in our lifetimes beyond the internet. Like in the professional wealth management world, internet changed everything. Cloud computing and the internet completely changed how we worked in business. AI is much more close to the clients' lives. So I think not only will it change how we work, but it's going to change how we interact with our clients and the skill sets we bring to clients. So it's almost more important than what the internet did.
Yes, I know. As a marketer, I have all these tools at my disposal, but you also talked about, I think advisors and leaders of wealth management firms are very analytical by nature, obviously, and have spent years focusing on the numbers. But you talk about this shift to a focus on time and energy. Share more about that.
Look, there's 3 questions that I think everyone should be asking. The first one is, what if clients' futures, we are spending a lot less time talking about money and a lot more about time and energy, where instead of asset allocation, we're talking about time allocation. Because here's what's going to happen for sure. As AI gets more involved, a lot of the analytical skills, all the things that we are traditionally valued for, what's the optimal level of this financial plan? How should we allocate your money? When's the right time to rebalance? Which asset class should we own? AI will do it faster, more efficiently, and better than we do as humans. And so what is the role of a human? Well, if we are truly great wealth advisors, we're going to go up the value chain. And it's more about improving people's lives than just optimizing their portfolios. And again, this is going to happen quicker than we imagine. Certainly by the time we reach the end of this decade, 2030, wealth advisors will no longer be in the financial planning and investment only side of the equation. They're going to have fundamentally different roles to play. And I strongly believe that we're going to be talking about life. We're going to have to start pivoting more towards, I hate the term life coach, but really a life advisor, so that we ensure that people are using money to maximize their lives and bring a level of empathy and connectivity with clients. It's very different that technology cannot do, because where is the power of human interaction? It's empathy. It's the ability to connect with people. It's understanding when no means no and no means I think I want to, but I don't know if I can afford to. Those nuances, using behavioral economics to actually help people understand what are your priorities and what's prohibiting you from living the life you want to live today, not just in the future. Because all of the future analytics and everything else will be done seamlessly by AI. So yes, it will make your business more efficient, but in order to differentiate, you want to use it to impact clients' lives in more material ways. And that kind of evolution, it's going to require really rich data. It's going to require you having fields and sales force you don't currently have. It's also going to mean interacting and changing your promise to the marketplace. So the first big question is, what happens if by 2030, most really good wealth advisory firms are really helping people with their time and energy allocation rather than their asset allocation?
Cool concept. Related to that, I think for years now, we've seen advisors, the truly great ones, have become more specialized, more able to solve problems for very specific types of clients. And you talk about them becoming an indispensable guide, which suggests they need to be able to go broad too and bring in others into the relationship.
What if clients care more about your ability to simplify their lives than your actual expertise? Now, again, I like asking questions because that doesn't mean that it's true. It's just a way to think about why your clients are really with you. And I would suggest that one of them is they want you to help maximize their financial life, reduce financial anxiety. And part of that is to keep it simple enough that they know what it means. Most financial plans are so complicated, the clients really don't understand any of it. Most advisors have now decided that they're going to do tax prep and insurance and all these other things. And that's not necessarily what the client expects from you. What they want is a consolidated view of their lives. They don't need you to solve everything, but technology allows you to connect all the different facets of their life. And if your goal is to simplify rather than to provide all the answers, it might be more important for you to be in a situation where you're facilitating and creating those solutions, working with their accountants, or having an outside accounting firm so that you specialize on the client experience and the delivery of a consolidated, simplified view of your financial life, rather than having all the skills in-house. Because I can't tell you what I experienced at Goldman, that if we were doing their tax prep and their investments and their financial planning, we never lost a client unless something went wrong with one of the elements. Now, it's true for all of our clients and all of the advisors I see today. They all think now they've got to get into the tax prep business. But the reality is, most of your clients who have assets already have an accountant. If they need an accountant, you can provide one that is an extension of what you do without being in the tax prep business. That gives you all access to the information and everything else. So I think just like we outsource most of our investment expertise on alts and everything else, think about your platform, your set of solutions as both internal and external, that what they really want is a consolidated set of solutions that are curated, that are high quality, but you don't have to be in every vertical. Like, you're probably not in the REIT business. You're in the business of finding a good REIT solution. And I find many advisors take that historical thing that we're going to build it here, to have all vertical integration, far too far. And that means that they're then spending their time on things they're not great at, managing a team of accountants that don't necessarily do it well because that's not what the advisor does for a living. It's a massive distraction. It comes with an opportunity cost that limits their future growth. So I think it's a very interesting question to ask yourself. Do they care about me doing the tax prep, or do they care that I have access to the information so I can do my job better? And if the latter is true, then you don't need to be in that business. You have to solve for the problem. And you can do that with partners that are integrated, that have SRAs with you. And you can concentrate on making sure you have the most rich platform that covers the client's entire financial life in a modular way, but you're not in all these different businesses.
Right. You're not the expert on everything, and
On
then
everything.
also taking on all the risk.
And by the way, it makes you very key man dependent, right? Because then the person if that person leaves, who's the quarterback of everything, you have a huge problem on your hands. So I think, and most clients, by the way, especially the next generation that we'll talk about in a second, they're much more skeptical. The Gen X are not like the baby boomers. The Gen X, and we talk about this in the third thing, they want to be collaborated with, but they don't want to be told what to do. So many clients in their 70s.
There's a lot of research that they want to be involved. they do want an advisor. For years, people thought they might not even want
Exactly.
personalized advice. They definitely do, but they want to be really involved in the process.
Well, think about where in their lives. So again, this is another. What if clients want more collaboration with you?
Mhm.
Where in their lives does a Gen Xer trust an external party more than Google? Almost nowhere. Like even when you have a friend tell you about the best hotel in the world, or you go to a travel agent and are paying a travel agent to book for you, you're still going to go look. You're going to look at the videos. You're going to question them. What about this other hotel? There's nobody who's Gen X who hasn't grown up internet native. Now, Gen Y is social media native, but Gen X is internet native. So to assume that they're going to just take your advice and do it without validating, and this started in the medical profession, many doctors frustrated with the self-assessments that people were doing going in, saying, I think I have this, I think I have that, I think your treatment is wrong. There's nobody in our generation under 58, under 60, who doesn't validate, who doesn't want to be in the cockpit saying, yes, I'd rather, like, let's fly around this storm.
Right. Or what
But
about
many of our tools and many of our advisors are trained to say, I'm the expert in the room. I'm, Marcus Welby, MD, and I walk in and I tell you, this is the surgery you're going to have. Well, that's just not the way Gen X operates. And so you're going to have to think about, how do I ensure that I'm a facilitator of solutions, that I'm empowering my clients to make a decision? But that also, again, leads to that simplification. If that's going to be true, the cockpit can't be so complicated the client doesn't understand any of it, because they're going to go to people who solve and make it easy to understand and consolidate their lives, but also who give them a voice in the room. And so I think as we look at the next half of the decade, this idea of making things understandable, comprehensible, actionable, simpler is going to be part of the dialogue. And it will be counterintuitive to how we've built our entire business, which is we use language most people don't understand. They just trust us. So we could always
We're the
say
trusted expert.
yeah, hey, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. And there's still certainly some of that in Gen X, but it is not the core ethos of the Gen X generation. And so if you're going to build a wealth firm for the next 10 years, it's going to have to think differently about how it interacts with clients. And we've seen that, by the way, when we talk to these great firms around the country. Those led by younger advisors have a very different lens on how to serve clients than people who've been doing it for 25 or 30 years. And that next set of clients are not going to find it appealing to say, I'm going to run a plan, I'll tell you what to do, and I'll tell you it'll work out. Right. The next gen of firms are going to be much more focused on, let's talk about your life today and what needs to change today to make your life better today, not just for some amorphous plan out in the future. And I think that's the other final thing I think that really matters. Planning's going to have to become more relevant to the way you live today. It's got to be this thing that impacts you right now, because we are an instant gratification generation. And so it's not good enough to say, well, don't worry, you keep doing this and at 65, you'll be able to do Y. Because people are sitting there going, we don't think in a linear way. No one thinks about retirement and I'm done. I want to think about stopping working now and then thinking about starting a new business at some point. So
they want to take the trip now.
Exactly. I want to buy my second home now. I want to enjoy my kids now. And so this is a much more dynamic, interactive process. And the way we interact with clients and build our firms will need to evolve as well.
So, Joe, as we wrap up, what's one piece of advice that you would give firms that might be a little bit stuck, but in their minds, they think, I can succeed in the second half of this decade. I can be one of the fastest growing firms. What should they think about?
Well, I would think about, what am I doing that really speaks to my clients in a way that resonates and is different than everyone else? I think we tend to have a herd mentality in our industry, which is, this is the way this firm did it, that's how I'm going to do it. First, I think you're going to have a very clear niche that you're speaking to. You can't be all things to all people. And if you're sub $50 billion, $20 billion, if you're not a deca-billion RIA, in order to be successful, you're going to have a point of view of, where do I win and have competitive edge? Number two, what are we doing to be relevant to the next generation of clients? And that means evolution and change. How have we improved as a firm? What it means to work with us? Again, this presuming that you don't want just have a lifestyle brand, keep the clients you've got and go to the end. And third, how are we going to reach the market organically? Like, that is the biggest challenge today because we're in a saturated market. There is endless wealth advisors. I was talking to an advisor today, $2 billion firm. And when I Googled his firm name, there were 3 national firms above his name in the sponsored window. And I said to him, are you aware of that? When I type in your specific name, he said, no. I think you need to stare at your firm as a consumer and say, do I stick out? What makes me special? And it's okay to alienate some clients because you're really championing a certain kind of client as you're building your firm. But figuring out where your organic growth is going to come from and making that a 30% of your time allocation and making sure your platform speaks to that audience constantly. And you don't just follow what everyone else has done. Oh, they're doing tax prep, I should do tax prep too. That's really important. So look, it's going to be a glorious second half of the decade, but our industry is going to look wildly different in 2030 than it does today in 2020, coming into 2025.
Agreed. Sounds like we should talk about organic growth in the new year. That will be one of our upcoming topics. Well, thanks, Joe. This was fun as always, and see you next time.
And Happy New Year.
You are listening to Rise Up with Rise Growth Partners. If we helped you to rise up today, please subscribe to the show so you don't miss future episodes. Leave us a review to tell us what you loved, what topics you'd like to hear, and please share it with others in the industry. After all, we're here to rise up together.